I think when a big bank kind of partners up with these local organizations, especially if they have the resources or they receive funding for certain programs, like it's something that's important that we can share with the clients. It's really about like those ecosystems, right? Like who you know and who's in your circle or your financial circle. And when I'm thinking about like my role and here at US Bank, like it's so important when I'm meeting new like leaders that are in our communities or nonprofits and really establishing relationships to understand what it is that they're doing to support communities like the Latino community.
¿Qué tal, mi gente? Vanessa Sancha, who you were just hearing from, is a business access advisor at US Bank. And let me explain to you why her role is so important. What may not be a surprise to you is Latinos face huge challenges in accessing traditional business loans from national banks with lower approval rates and sometimes even higher interest rates. Now, a McKinsey report in 2024 found a $200 billion massive lending gap between Latino-owned small and medium enterprises and their white counterparts. And it's for that reason we need people like Vanessa in the room advocating for our community. She brings a wealth of experience to the table with 15 years in finance, including over 7 specifically in lending. She's also deeply involved in supporting entrepreneurs, serving on the board of Latino Entrepreneurial Network for 3 years in the past, including a term as president, and currently on the board of Wisconsin Veteran Business Alliance. As of April 2025, she also joined the loan committee for Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation. Now, this season of Moneda Moves is all about different kinds of capital. And today, we're focusing on financial capital, specifically bank loans. Vanessa, you've seen firsthand the challenges and opportunities entrepreneurs face, and we're eager to talk to you more about how US Bank is providing solutions, the results, and how entrepreneurs can increase their chances of getting to loans. You're listening to Moneda Moves, a podcast where we cover the intersection of money and cultura. I'm your host, Leon Alfaro, an award-winning producer, Forbes contributor, and founder of Moneda Moves. Now, if you're new to Moneda Moves, welcome. If you're coming back, Moneda Moves is evolving. And now, we're not just talking about assets and cash, we're talking about capital in all of its forms. Financial, social, political, and cultural. Because Latinos are powerful, resilient, and at the forefront of building the systems our communities need to thrive today. From mutual aid networks to nonprofits, from entrepreneurs to innovators, we're rewriting what growth looks like. And let's be clear, a podcast like this has never been more important. Our stories, our strategies, and our poder deserve the mic. Here we'll highlight Latinos shaping business, redefining our relationship with money, and fueling the American economy. We'll increase transparency around dinero, celebrate achievements, and share the playbooks that move our comunidades forward, not just in the US, but at a global scale. Join me weekly this season as we feature new entrepreneurs and innovators, and those building alongside us. No te lo quieras perder. Vanessa, we are thrilled to have you, and I'm so excited to talk to you today a little bit more about your areas of expertise.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Talk to us about why you started in finance and why you decided to stay in finance. What about it fuels you?
Yeah, I think I probably started because it was just something that I had a lot of people get into banking and they're like, hey, you should apply, like a lot of friends that told me about it. And then I did. And I started as a teller, kind of moved my way up. But growing up, my mom didn't even have a bank account. You know, when I started working, that's when she opened her first bank account. She was using the cash checking place out of the day here at Milwaukee, on the south side of Milwaukee.
Wow. Yeah.
And paying the cash checking fees, didn't grow up learning about finances. So for me, it was a little bit more personal. So like as I got into the role and working, I learned so much. And now taking that information back to my family, getting everybody set up, just kind of learning about credit, learning about how a bank account works. And then I did a lot of translating. Spanish wasn't my first language, but I understood it. We talked in Spanish in the household. It was probably funny because they would speak in Spanish, I'm speaking in English, and we're understanding each other. But I think until like high school, when I probably worked at like Walgreens, people would ask me like questions in Spanish, and I'm like, I felt uncomfortable because I think I was afraid of the way I pronunciated things. But then I just did it, and it was just about like helping people, and that's kind of like why I'm in the role today. I think there's not a lot of access when it comes to financial literacy to the Latino community, and being able to learn that, like in your own language to really understand was really big for me because I could see how it impacted the people close to me, my family and my close circle. So it's kind of how I kind of got into it, a lot of community involvement, and really just made me more eager to learn and understand so that I can explain it in a different way, but the same information, but just something that was relatable, like culturally relatable to my community.
Yeah, and that is super, super important, right? We need people in all parts of the areas as we talk about Latinos growing, being able to yield the power, the economic power that they have and to grow it. We need people in the system, outside of the system, making sure that we provide a fertile environment for our entrepreneurs and just anyone to grow from a financial perspective. So
Exactly.
talk to me a little bit about the lending landscape. Let's start like kind of painting the scene, the lending landscape and its historical challenges. Where does US Bank fit within the broader lending landscape? Talk to me a little bit about what services it offers, what can someone go to US Bank, what kind of loans can they go to request, and what has been its history in the Latino community?
Yeah, so we US Bank, we're like committed to be more than like a lender. We really want to partner up with our business owners and our clients and the business owners at whatever stage, right, that they're at, whether they're starting up or they're looking to grow. We have all the great capabilities like a large regional bank. There's access to branches in 26 states. The products and services that we offer are pretty broad. We have a wide range. They support the small businesses at all levels. So you can really start with a solution and it can grow with you throughout that business journey. So that's the kind of nice thing about US Bank. We know the important roles that the small businesses play in the community. So we want to make sure that we can help them navigate the challenges that they're facing. And then we want to meet them where they are, right? So whatever stage that might be. We offer checking accounts, loan products, lines of credits, credit cards, so term loans, lines of credits. And then also like treasury management solutions, just kind of like those products that help with receivables. So how different solutions to help accelerate those receivables or protect you from fraud. So we have a wide range of products available here.
Everything from soup to nuts. You have everything that
Mm-hmm.
an entrepreneur or even somebody that's just trying to level up in their finances may need. Do you find in Moneda Moves, we often talk about our Latino entrepreneurial community. Do you find that there are any common misconceptions when there are new and budding business owners approaching the bank for a loan or a service? Anything that they may have misconceived about things that they can get help with that US Bank offers?
Yeah, I think a common misconception is that they think there's like a one size fits all loan. So like they
Mm.
think like everything, whatever, every business is different, like everybody has different factors and different factors are considered when you're looking at a loan approval. So things like credit, cash flow, what type of collateral business owner might have, even the timing of when they're requesting the request for funding matters. So that's why I always encourage business owners to talk to their banker first, to have a conversation that can really help figure out like what they're solving for. They want to make sure they're applying for the right product, right? When you looks like there's different options when it comes to like secured loans and unsecured loans, and if applying for a secured loan or an unsecured loan isn't the right fit for you, that can be something, that alone could be something that could be the difference between like an approval and a denial. So that's why it's so important to talk to your banker.
You mentioned that there's so many different products, and I think that this is a point of overwhelm perhaps for some
Mm-hmm.
people. It's like, what do I go after? How do I even know where to begin? What are some questions that people can ask themselves to find the right product or really truly understand what kind of solution they're going to need to the problem that they have?
Yeah. So they want to kind of know a little bit about what I said, right? They want to know what they're solving for. Because if they're solving for a cash flow shortage, that might be something like a line of credit might be a need for them, right? If they're looking to purchase new equipment, they might need a term loan because that's something you want to pay longer term. That's something you're not able to pay in the first 12 months. When you're looking at things like line of credit, or just something that's revolving, that's something that you can pay quickly. Maybe not just in 1 month, but over a 12-month period. Some questions that I would say that business owners should ask bankers is just kind of like what type of loans do they offer for specific things. So once they know what they're solving for, if it's something like they're buying a new piece of equipment, do they offer different types of term loans. So like if there's equipment finance, what are those terms? What do the rates look like? When you're looking to purchase a big equipment, depending on what the rate might be or whatever term, that could make a difference on whether you get an approval or a denial too. Those are some of the things that I would say would be key to ask for and look for when you're shopping around.
Those are good tidbits. So just to summarize, some of the things that you'll want to come with is to know what you're solving for, know what the problem is, what it is that you're trying to purchase or create within the business, and then ask a little bit about rates, because that might help you come to your own decision. If you're, for example, you're looking at several different banks for those kind of services.
And also, one thing I would add would be know your financial position, like your business financial position. That might be a big thing too. You want to be able to review your financials and see if your business can take on any new debt, because that might be also a determining factor when you're looking to request credit.
Great. That's a really great checklist to start. And now I do want to address throughout the season the position that a lot of business owners are in, which is a very difficult one. This goes beyond the Latino community. But I will talk about the Latino community because this is who we talk about here at Moneda Moves. Latinos are a major driver of the U.S. economy, which a lot of folks listening to this podcast will know. I'll kind of repeat a few stats that we might be familiar with. Some of them may be new. But if U.S. Latinos were their own country, their GDP would be the fifth largest in the world. That was valued at $3.6 trillion right in 2024, $3.6 trillion. They're also starting businesses faster than any other demographic, accounting for nearly 1 in 4 new entrepreneurs in recent years. But despite that economic power, recent policy changes, especially the ones around small business funding, access to capital, perhaps immigration, have created a lot of real uncertainty in the community. And in the broader landscape, we see a lot of potential policy implementations in how we deal in business with other countries. Tariffs, will they go through, won't they? These are things that perhaps bigger businesses can handle a little bit with more, not ease, but they can handle it. Smaller businesses, mid-sized businesses, it is much more detrimental. So given that, how is US Bank ensuring that it's reaching and serving smaller entrepreneurs? I'll put this in the bucket. And because a lot of Latino entrepreneurs are new entrepreneurs, they tend to be smaller or starting up. How does US Bank ensure that they're still reaching these families in this demo today?
Yeah, I've heard that data before and it's powerful, but honestly, like it doesn't surprise me at all because it really does reflect what I see every day when I'm working with Latino-owned businesses. I would say like as a Latina myself and someone who's been in the industry for over 16 years, I know how important it is to have someone who you can call, who understands your language, your culture, your goals, and that kind of trust and representation really does make a difference. At US Bank, we really focus on expanding access, not just to capital, but to education and trusted guidance. We offer financial education, technical assistance in multiple languages, including Spanish, so clients can really learn that content in a way that makes most sense and makes them feel comfortable to them. We also work with CDFIs, nonprofits, the local chambers who help connect clients to resources, additional funding or alternative funding, and other business support. I think historically, US Bank has leaned into that. We've invested in bilingual staff, community-facing roles, financial education, and then by showing consistency and partnering with trusted local leaders, we've been able to build on those relationships. That history of trust really continues to guide, US Bank today.
Yeah. And talk to me about the importance of that. I think that I'll make this observation. I think that there is a true sentiment change across industry in terms of interacting with communities by specific. So for example, Latino community, Black community, et cetera. But talk to me about the business cited importance of building local connections with people on the ground. You mentioned working with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce or the chambers of commerce that are local, working with CDFIs. What is the importance of a bank that is national of making sure you establish those relationships with local to reach the demographics?
I think the importance and just being in the industry for so long, and I've seen it, is that knowing what resources are available. There's so much information out there. Sometimes if that's not your full-time job, you might miss something. So I think when a big bank kind of partners up with these local organizations, especially if they have the resources or they receive funding for certain programs. Like, it's something that's important that we can share with the clients. It's really about like those ecosystems, right? Like who you know and who's in your circle or your financial circle. And when I'm thinking about like my role and here at US Bank, like it's so important when I'm meeting new like leaders that are in our communities or nonprofits and really establishing relationships to understand what it is that they're doing to support communities like the Latino community. And that information that I learned, those relationships, I'm kind of bringing back to my clients and making that accessible to them. And sometimes that information isn't as public, like maybe their team doesn't have a strong social media feed, their website might not be that up to date because they might not have that type of support for the organization because they're really focused on whatever mission they're working on. So it's sometimes that word of mouth, so it's really important for like big banks like us to partner with those organizations and find out and filter through, right? Because I think our clients are depending on us and they trust us to lead them in the right direction. And that's really how I see everything kind of interconnect with each other, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate and I respect that so much that you and the team at US Bank goes out of their way and that you even have access advisors in different regions, right? You get to know the local areas in a much more specific way and close a big gap that exists between local organizations and then bigger national entities that both carry a lot of power in their own ways. But that's a critical gap that definitely needs to be bridged. Now, you actually mentioned something that liaises very nicely into the next question, which is about building business relationships and banking relationships and how important that is to furthering your business, like securing a loan down the road. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs looking to establish strong banking relationships even before needing a loan?
Yeah, I would say to create a strong relationship, you want to start with your business banker or your banker, and especially when you're looking to build that with a bank. They can help make solving for challenges easier, quicker, and more efficiently. One thing I really want business owners to remember, because I do see a lot of this, to create a relationship, it really does require effort from both ends, right? So you have to be honest, open and honest and transparent with your banker about your business so that they can better serve you. They have to kind of know where your current state and then kind of guide you depending on your business goals. So take time to really interview them, see what's the right fit. If it's the right fit for you, that banker, that bank, you want to make sure you find someone who you can really like vibe with and can build rapport, because this is like finances are scary. Like you want to be able to trust who you're talking to. So if you don't have that connection, it might be tough for you to be open and transparent or have trust that they're like thinking of solutions that's in the best interest for you and your business. And then probably someone, when you're looking to establish that, like you want to kind of filter and check to see if they're active in the community and they're knowledgeable, because you're busy on your day-to-day running your business and you kind of lean on your banker or that kind of component, that advisor, when it comes to your business circle, to have like ear to the ground to find out what's going on and be a little proactive and come back to you with some information that could be of a resource to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are really great tips, and just comes back to harping on the fact that at the end of the day, business is built on personal relationships. Now, let's say you're looking at different loan officers that perhaps you are vetting for a potential exploration of a loan, right? What are the questions that you ask the loan officer to vet to see if they're a good fit for what you need? What does the interview look like, so to speak?
Yeah, I would say first you have to think of your banker as like a key member of your team. Like once you see that, because you're interviewing new employees for your business and you want to see like, do they fit, are we aligned? So same thing with the banker. So you can ask them questions like, do you have experience with working with businesses like mine, like that type of industry? What kind of loans have you helped other business owners secure? That's kind of telling. Like, do they only do a ton of term loans, a ton of lines of credit? So if they have a variety of it and diverse background in that, then like they're having the right conversations so that they can best fit you instead of just, going on one product, just really comfortable with this is what I set my clients up for. And then you want maybe to ask them, like, can you walk me through how you help clients decide, like, what's their process? Like, do they do like a pros and cons, or like, how do they explain each product? Because you want to be able to pay attention to how they communicate, and if they're like actively listening to, and do they make things clear when they do explain something, and are they giving you more recommendations that actually add value? Because if they're kind of presenting a solution, it should kind of be tied into what it is you kind of mentioned was a pain point for your business. It should be like,
100%.
oh yeah, you did mention this, and this can actually add value. It's going to streamline the way you're processing or accelerate your receivables, because it sounds like you have a timing issue, and that's really, causing a huge pain point for your business. So like, if they do provide something, is it adding value? And also, like how I mentioned, like, don't be afraid to ask, like, about their connections. Like, who do they know? Like, are they active in the community? Who do they partner with outside of the bank? Those types of networks could really open doors for a business. If you have LinkedIn, I would say, like, add them on LinkedIn and see, what kind of content do they post, where are they connected to. You might run into a time where you are looking to connect with someone and they might know them well, and that's an easy introduction. They'd be happy to introduce you to their connection. You're their business client, right? So I would say, like, finally, the last thing would be, like, avoid rushing into things. Like, you do not want to rush into things, because there's so many options out there. So just take the time to ask the question and just really think through and reflect on where's the best place. Because the last thing you want to do is spend like 5 years at a bank, and then when you're ready to request some type of credit, you find out like they do not have an appetite for your industry. So now you just wasted 5 years building a relationship somewhere that really couldn't assist you from the beginning. And just knowing, like, that the right banker will not only know the products, right, but they'll know how to align, like I mentioned, like, align those products with your bigger business goals.
Yeah. And just the way that you answer that question speaks so much to about like the way that you do business, the fact that you see it as you see yourself as a holistic partner. Now, I know that your main role is not as a loan officer, but your experience is in lending. So that tells me a lot about how you carry yourself in the business, which is fantastic. And not only is it about providing a product or putting a product in front of a client, so to speak, it's about being a part-time resource and full-time, like, part-time resource to being a member of the team, which is a bigger responsibility. It means being connected. It means offering those resources and putting in front of the business owners when available. Oh my gosh, that just shows me that you have so much more experience. And if you have any stories, by the way, that you'd like to share of experiences in the past from lending, like, we'd love to take it, because I think we often talk about lending as a concept and then people have such different experiences. It's like, do you have an experience that you can harp on that you remember that it's just like, this was an experience of a really good interaction that I had with a business owner?
I think I probably have a couple of them. It really is just those full conversations. Like I was saying, like, it's so tough. Like, I'm thinking, like, of the last person I was interacting with, like, it was sometimes a little hard to, like, break the shell and getting, like, some questions answered. But when you explain the why, because you can kind of tell when people are comfortable to talk, right? Or they're just like, why do you want to know? Why are you asking me these questions, especially like during times right now? And you kind of have to say, like, the reason why I'm asking, So I was again, like, I don't take loan applications, and I partner with bankers or internally and externally. And one of the things is, as I'm working with someone, they're looking to purchase a franchise, but they also have their own business. So it's kind of like, which route do they go? Like, they're in the phase right now where they're trying to figure out, like, are we going to expand and just kind of tailor the way we have our business model, or are we looking to buy into something that has a proven business model and have two separate entities? So we really have to talk through that. A big thing that probably would drive that would be the type of loan that would be available to them. And that's what we talked about a little. We talked about the options that they had if they went one route, went the other. Then we talked about, their current financial state. Then we talked, and obviously, like, we all know, like, personal and business credit history is a big driving factor when you're requesting any type of funding. So we kind of talked about those two things. I think I actually met with them 2 times now, or maybe 3 times because it was a phone call too. But it was just because I ask questions, they ask questions. It's kind of hard to kind of give you specific details because, we have to protect their privacy. But it's just, I think what I really loved about that interaction was like, they felt comfortable, right? It maybe wasn't the first meeting, but they had to get to know me. I asked the questions that I needed to kind of get an idea of how I could help them, just what were they looking for. And then they went back, reflected a little bit, had additional questions. We met again. And then, we had a follow-up call too to kind of like, hey, let's just confirm our action plan, because I like to do like an action plan. Okay, like this is what you kind of said you're at, but this is where we are. This is what we did today, and this is what we're going to plan to get to. So it's not going to be something that's like you're just crossing the street. It's like something that kind of you need a path drawn out for you, and that was kind of what we did. And that takes a lot of time, but it also is like the thing that makes the difference, because now people are like getting prepared, to get a yes, versus like checking it out and guessing and then get a no, and then they're like, oh, I don't know, I really don't know why, like I don't know what to do. I thought everything was in order, but it really
You give them a roadmap.
It really depends on what the ask is.
Let's talk a little bit about preparing for the loan process, which you kind of mentioned. When a business owner is preparing to apply for a loan and they're considering the kind of loans in front of them, what are the key documents that they should have in hand?
The key documents I would say would be, for sure, their personal and business tax returns. Ideally, you want to have that 3 years. If you're a startup business, you might not have the business tax returns, but you'll have the personal. You want to have the last 3 years. You'll also want to have a personal financial statement. You can download that, like you can Google that, or your bank has their own personal financial statement that they can give you. And you want to make sure that you list all your business debt, your assets, and the net worth. The reason to that is sometimes they look at that, right? So that could be something that could be considered as a factor when they're trying to mitigate risk on the loans. For your business, you want to have year-to-date financials. So that's going to include your profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. And then you also want to include a debt schedule. So similar like to the personal financial statement, you want to have a business debt schedule that lists all of your business debt. And also if you have an aging report, like a receivables, you want to add that as well if applicable. And then you don't want to forget like the basics, and I would say like maybe put this in a folder and store it, have a PDF version electronically, and then in a file, like the EIN number for your business, the articles of incorporation, and operating agreement. I think a lot of people, they lose that and they're like, oh, I can't find it, but this is it. And sometimes you do need a hard copy. So you want to keep that safe. And then I would say a business plan, a solid business plan, especially if you're a business owner that's just looking to start a business or you're making a big move, like something of a significant change. And included in that business plan, you want to have your 3 years of projections. For the following year. So like those,
I can almost picture like a Google
important
folder with all of these files, right?
Yeah.
We might even break out in the show notes from this episode a to-do list, a checklist, so that people can put those files away. Because imagine having, you mentioned your EIN and the official documentation, how people sometimes lose track of it. Imagine losing it and then scrambling to go find it. I definitely wouldn't be the first person or the last person who scrambled for a document related to my business before. So it's really important to have all of that organized, not just for loans, but for any other things you may apply for in the future. So we'll definitely break that out into a list. And then I want to talk a little bit about loan approval as it relates to our Latino community. The odds of loan approval from national banks are 60% lower for Latino businesses as of 2024. That was according to the Latino Business Action Network. Meanwhile, Latina-owned businesses experienced the lowest approval rates on business loans from national and local banks, with only 39% approval on average. I want to talk about where banks historically have perhaps failed these communities, why these rates are so low, and what are some common reasons that loan applications may be denied, and how can we improve that?
Yeah, so those numbers are a little hard to ignore, right? But I can't speak for all banks, but I can share what U.S. Bank, right, what we've been doing and how we help entrepreneurs get to a yes. So part of that is, we built that team of 18 business access advisors across the country, and that includes myself and my colleague, Kai Brown, who's also in Chicago. We work one-on-one with business owners to offer like coaching, guidance, and helping them navigate through funding opportunities. We also partner with organizations like Operation Hope, where I work closely with my amazing partner, Felicia Adams, out in Chicago. She's in Chicago as well, to support credit rebuilding, which is one of the most common reasons for a loan denial. And when someone doesn't quite meet traditional lending criteria, we also work with the CDFI. So that's kind of where they come into place to help to connect them to alternative lending until they're ready for conventional lending, getting them bank ready. And then when it comes to denial, the most one, like I said, probably was like that personal credit. Also cash flow for businesses, for startup businesses and early stage businesses, especially like for those businesses, it's especially important that they understand like that personal credit weighs heavily on the decision, and it's more than just like that high score number, because there's so many factors that go into a credit score,
Right.
and it's not just like, oh, I have a 680 or a 700. Like sometimes they could have a high score, but it's other factors as well. When you that's why like understanding how I mentioned earlier, like your financials is so important, especially when that most common issue for denials is cash flow. But it's important to know like your profitability, right? Your debt, what type of debt you have a clear plan overall, and then think about like long term. So for example, I think you want to think about like, are you showing, like for a business owner, like are you showing low profits to reduce your tax liability? Because that may be something that might save you money today, but hurt your chances in getting funding tomorrow. So that's why I also always encourage people to have a good, that ecosystem of advisors. That's always including like your banker, your accountant, an attorney, and an insurance person, because these are the people that you are going to be having conversations with all the time, and they really should know each other, because they should be familiar with the type of business goals that you have or your future plans, long-term and short-term, because sometimes what they do kind of all interconnect together. So you want to make sure
So
everyone's on the
connecting
same
your
page.
system a little bit.
Exactly. So those
I
are
want
like
to
the key things.
Yeah, yeah, and cash flow is super, super important. I do want to talk about Latino credit scores by and large. I think there's been a very much raised awareness in recent years around credit score and how important it is. I mean, to be fair, there always has been, but I think there was like a
Yeah.
very big push. A lot of fintech companies that started addressing it too for folks that tend to be credit invisible. I know that there's a startup called Listo Fintech out in California that aims to bridge some of that, because sometimes language barriers are an issue. Isusu is a company that was founded by immigrants that was said to help a lot of immigrants building their credit score, because they tend to also be credit invisible. Is that the issue that you're still noticing with the Latino community, that they just haven't built their credit score? Or is it that there have been that their credit score has been dinged for whatever variety of reasons? As things have evolved, because now there are more products, what are the biggest hiccups and kind of things that we have to hop over as a community that we're coming across with credit scores? Because I've seen as much that there is much more awareness and more products targeted for our communities.
Yeah, I would say the one thing I really want everyone to know is like how I kind of mentioned is like, depending, there's so many different options out there, and each lender looks at credit differently, right? So I think the main thing that if you had to think about something to like really focus on, and what are lenders looking for, what's the thing that's causing me not to get an approval, is like really understanding like what they're looking at, right? So when I mentioned like credit, like, and it's also like multiple things, like I would say like focus on like the 5 C's of credits, right? Because each lender is so different. Like there's character, right? For 5 C's of credits, like character, capacity, collateral, the conditions, and each one of those 5 things might have a heavier weight when the underwriter is looking, right? So you got to understand like what your lender or whoever you're working with is going to look at. Things have changed so much where I think comparable credit is also like, there's some lenders that look at comparable credit that could be different if there's something that might not be reporting the right way. But those other 5 C's of credits are a big thing that should really be the focus.
Can you
Because
give us a line on the 5 C's of credit? What are they?
yeah, the 5 C's of credit are character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. I always have to count them because I forget. But those are the 5 things that you want to focus, that lenders tend to look at. So that can be multiple things. So you kind of have to see, like, as you're working on your personal credit and your business credit, because those 5 C's fall into the same categories, how are you showing up in those categories? I would say,
And
like,
character, is that the first time you said that I kind of wondered because I honestly I don't know them. Character, are we talking about a person's character? What's a one-liner for each of those so that we know how to
Yeah, I
define
would
them?
say, like, character, think about it as, like, yeah, like your reputation, like
Okay.
they're kind of, that's how they're defining it with all the information that might be out there on a report. Like, what is it speaking to, right? When you think about character, it's probably looking at any delinquencies, right, that might be on a personal or business side. Also, like, if there's any judgments or liens on your report,
Mhm.
that might be something. What does that say? Are you making payments on time? You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yep.
that. Capacity is more kind of where you fit overall. Like, do you have the capacity to take on new debt? Like, what does your cash flow look like? Your debts and assets are kind of looking more deeper dive into that. Then capital as well, you do the same thing, cash flow. Collateral is more like, what assets do you have that could be leveraged to secure a loan? Because remember, we talked about, like,
Right.
unsecured and secured loans. Like, do you have, if you're going to do a secured loan, what can they secure it with? And then the conditions, right? Like market, industry, like what type of industry are you in? Is it a high risk right now? There's a lot of factors that go into that one. So it's more specific into that business.
Those 5 C's are super, super important, especially having on that last C. Conditions right now are volatile to say
Yeah.
the least across so many industries. So that's something to have good context on and for folks to do a deeper research and debrief on what those qualities that people are looking for might be. So because you just talked about loans and secured and unsecured loans, let's go ahead and define those type of loans, right? Like there's all these different business loans available at US Bank, but let's talk about it from the point of view of secured and unsecured business term loan versus lines of credit. Can you define those for us?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about a term loan, you're thinking about that's something that's a fixed rate, and that's something that you're going to spread over a certain amount of years, and that's something that dollar amount is probably going towards something that requires you to pay over time that's going to be more than 12 months. So that's kind of like the key number to kind of think about. 12 months or more, you kind of want to steer towards a term loan. Lines of credits, that's more like a revolving line. It's kind of like a huge credit card, right? So that's something that you can pay in a short period of time. So something that you can pay in 12 months or less. The thing about those ones, the rate is variable, right? And it depends on the type of loan product that they have when you apply for a line of credit, but there could be like annual fees for that. There could be rates that change, it depends on the product, but those are variable rates. And then they might only be good for a certain amount of time. And then you have to renew them every year. So I would say those are the two main, like those are the differences between those two types of loans.
Yeah, and good things to have in mind, definitely, as just like a basis and a foundation as we explore different kinds of loans. Now, with US Bank, the team has had a lot of progress with the Access program, which I think is definitely a one of a kind. Not all banks have this. And so I'll give a little bit of background on it. US Bank launched the Access Commitment Program in 2021 to help close the wealth gap for underrepresented communities, which I think was really interesting in the way that it was framed, intended to be very wide reaching. The initiative takes a very holistic approach as well, encompassing several key areas from home ownership, via home and broader financial resources, and capital and wealth. So let's dive into specifically Access Business, which is a part of the program. This one focuses on empowering small businesses, and that's where you sit. A core component of the Business Access Advisor program, which has doubled in size since 2021, super cool, is that the program has facilitated financial education seminars and coaching sessions. So the numbers in that have been in the hundreds for seminars and the thousands for coaching sessions, which is, again, great progress since it was only set in place around 2021 from what I read. So what are the impacts of these resources on the community? What has that progress been in the last 5 years? And what kind of feedback have you gotten from business owners that kind of helps pave the way for what's next?
I think we knew from the beginning that access, whether it was just to capital, connections, or just trusted resources could be something that's transformational, right, for small businesses. We've seen that play out in different ways, both here in Chicago and across the country. So throughout the Business Access Advisor Program, we've helped business owners purchase commercial property, build business credit, with our partnership with Operation Hope, and really get loan ready, and then connect them with nonprofit partners that provide that additional technical support. And it's not just about like a one conversation. It's like we're really walking with them through the process and helping them grow. We do set up checkpoints, like 30 days, depending on how often they need to meet. It's a free service for us. So, they don't get charged per coaching session. So it's like nice when we get to meet with them and stay connected. I would say, for an example, we have a story on our usbank.com about one of our clients, Tito. He's a business owner in Minneapolis. A few years ago, Tito met with a business access advisor out in Minneapolis, and now he's in the process of renovating a troubled property to create like an eatery. And that is a really great example of how the right support can help businesses overcome challenges and really create that opportunity for growth. Ultimately, it's just about the impact. The impact that we're having is more about helping businesses, business owners feel confident, feel empowered and feel ready and prepared and know that there are possibilities, and then connect them to those possibilities. And I think that's the results that we're seeing when I'm meeting with clients, and even when I'm talking to my colleagues across the country. We always are sharing success stories, right? Because we get so excited when we help somebody, and they come in this happened, or I can't get this, I really need the help with this, and then we just find out their their current state and really guide them. And then when you see them achieve something that they were working towards, it's just it makes you kind of gets goosebumps and cry, because that was a huge impact. This is something that is their business goal. It's impacting not only them and their family, but the community, especially if they're creating new jobs. So I think that's what we're hearing a lot of, and we love to hear that. It's just you want to feel you're doing something every day, right, that's purposeful and helping others. And this role and this program really does that. And access to this resources, connections, all this stuff is just something that people think are not at a hand's reach, but it is so accessible. And it's really just about conversations that we have on a day-to-day, get to know people, and then you never know, you meet someone and you see how things connect, you're oh, you need this, oh, I know somebody that could help you with that, let me connect you. That's what we do every day. And that's probably my favorite part of the job, is connecting people to someone or something that could be of help to them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the power of a network, right? You're opening the doors to expand that network, to show people what's possible. And, someone might ask, what's in it? Obviously, there's a lot in it for the Latino community. Latino communities have for a long time not had the same level of access as others, whether they were credit invisible or they just didn't have access to the right people. What's in it for US Bank to expand to the Latino community? I have hunches, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah, I think it's nothing different that we were already doing. I think we just have a program that's really focused on doing this day to day, right? Because when you think about what's going on in the branches, they are meeting with clients who are coming in and out, and just kind of it's more at the moment, and there's not a lot of time. So I think what's in it for us is we're just building those relationships with our business clients, our consumer clients as well, and we get to be part of that journey, and we see their financial wellness grow and become something that can be sustainable because of that education piece. And we're just doing it more at a larger scale now, I would say, and more focused on that in language material, because, we can share all that information, but if it doesn't make sense to them and it's not culturally relevant, like, it's really hard to remember stuff.
Yeah.
You can tell me something all day, I might not remember if it doesn't make any sense because I can't relate to it. So being able to
speaking in the language and in culture. Yeah, no, I feel like from where I'm sitting, US Bank is taking advantage of an opportunity, a business opportunity that has long sat with Latinos, right? Based on the business generation, based on, we know that when you put capital in the hands of Latino entrepreneurs, they make that go the extra mile. Like, that is proven out by business owner studies that we see from places like Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Institute or Alban. So really excited to continue to see the team hopefully grow. There's a lot of work to be done. And I think that there's, how many access advisors are there across the country? Are there 18 or upwards 18. Of 20 now? 18.
Yep,
yeah, that's definitely a lot of work. And so I commend y'all on the work that you're doing, and hopeful to see more of that collaborative work, not just at US Bank, but at different financial institutions as well. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for your time. And where can folks find you online if they have more questions or they want to learn more about the programs?
Yeah, you can find more information about business access advisors on our website by visiting usbank.com/access. And there you'll kind of see the landing page talking a little bit more about our commitment and then also how to connect with one of us. Amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the Latino community. It's so exciting to hear that you get to hear from and help people every single day to achieve their business goals. And when you're an entrepreneur, for what I hear from entrepreneurs, it's their whole life. For some of them, that's their retirement plan. This is a big deal. It's not just something that they do a 9 to 5. It really seeps into their personal life. So thank you so much for your work and for sharing a little bit more about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, mi gente, for joining us this week on Moneda Moves. Before you go, please make sure to hit follow on this podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they are released. You can follow right now in the app you're using to listen to this podcast. Also, continue keeping cuentas and keeping tabs on our Latinx community and Money Moves via our free newsletter written by yours truly at monedamoves.substack.com. That's monedamoves.substack.com. I'll see you there. Hasta la próxima.